The afternoon sun hung low over the quiet neighborhood as I unloaded my small camping gear from the back of my truck. The open plot of land at the edge of the community felt peaceful, just tall grass, a gentle breeze, and the perfect place to spend a weekend away from noise. I had barely set down my cooler when I heard the sharp clacking of sandals marching toward me. I didn't even have to look up to know what was coming. Karen. She appeared like a storm cloud, sunglasses pushed up on her head, jaw tight, hands planted firmly on her hips. "Excuse me," she barked before she was even close. "What do you think you're doing here?" Her voice echoed across the empty lot as if she were summoning the entire HOA board. I calmly fastened one of the tent poles, pretending not to notice her theatrics. That only made her angrier. "This is not allowed," she continued, waving a thick HOA rulebook in the air like it was a holy scripture. "Camping is strictly forbidden in this community. You can't just set up a tent. Are you even a resident? Do you have a permit? Who approved this?" I stood slowly, dusting dirt off my hands. "This land is empty," I replied. "I'm just spending the weekend here." "Wrong answer." Her face flushed crimson. "You can't spend the weekend here. I'll have you fined. I'll call the HOA, the police, the mayor, I don't care. Pack up and leave immediately." A few neighbors peeked from behind their blinds, already familiar with Karen's dramatic tendencies. She stood inches from my face, breathing heavily, waiting for me to crumble under her pressure. But instead of arguing, I just smiled. Because she had no idea what was about to happen next. The next morning, the air felt strangely calm, as if the universe itself was preparing for a showdown. I sat on the edge of the empty plot sipping coffee, waiting for the land agent to arrive. The sun was just beginning to rise when I saw her, Karen, power walking across the sidewalk with a thick binder pressed against her chest like a badge of authority. She had clearly spent the night preparing for round two. "Good morning," she said, but in that tone that didn't sound like a greeting at all. She flipped open her binder dramatically. "I have printed every HOA section that applies to you. You cannot camp, you cannot occupy, and you cannot." She froze mid-sentence. Her eyes snapped to the silver SUV pulling up beside my truck. The land agent stepped out, holding a stack of papers and a clipboard. Karen's expression tightened like she had swallowed a lemon whole. What is going on?" she demanded. The agent walked past her politely and handed me the documents. "Congratulations," he said with a smile. "Everything is official. The land is now fully transferred to your name." For a moment, silence took over the entire street. Karen blinked rapidly, her jaw hanging so low it looked like it might fall off. What do you mean transferred?" she asked, her voice cracking. "He can't buy this land. This is HOA property." The agent turned to her with a courteous smile. "Actually, ma'am, this lot is not part of the HOA. It was privately owned by the previous landholder. And now, it belongs to him." Karen staggered back a step as if someone had pushed her. Her binder slipped from her hands, papers fluttering everywhere like defeated confetti. I simply nodded and said, "Looks like I'm not leaving after all." The look on her face was priceless. The transformation began just a week after the land officially became mine. At first, the empty lot looked ordinary, nothing but dry soil, patchy grass, and a few scattered rocks. But behind the scenes, I had been planning something much bigger than just a campsite. I wanted to build a place that felt free, open, and alive. A ranch. On the first morning of construction, the rumble of heavy machinery echoed across the neighborhood. A bulldozer rolled onto the property, followed by trucks carrying lumber, fencing panels, and metal beams. As workers marked measurements across the ground, Karen peeked from behind her curtains like a startled owl, shocked by the sudden activity. Neighbors came out one by one, curious but supportive. Karen, however, marched toward the edge of the property, her expression twisted in disbelief. She didn't dare step onto the land again, not after being proven wrong, but she stood as close as she legally could, watching every move. Day by day, her frustration grew. Fence posts went up first, tall, sturdy logs forming the outline of what would soon be my ranch boundary. Next came the foundation for the barn, poured smoothly and professionally. By the end of the first week, wooden frames rose from the ground, creating the skeleton of a spacious barn that would soon hold horses, tools, and feed. Then came the ranch gate, a large wooden archway with my family name carved boldly across it. When the sign was lifted into place, Karen let out an audible gasp from her driveway. The land that she once tried to control, once a quiet, forgotten plot, was becoming a full-scale ranch right in front of her eyes. And there was nothing she could do to stop it. Every hammer strike echoed one truth: I was here to stay. By the time the barn walls were up and the fences completely surrounded the property, Karen's patience had reached its breaking point. She had watched quietly, well, as quietly as Karen could, for days, but the moment she saw a delivery truck unload horse supplies, she snapped. I was speaking with the foreman near the new ranch gate when I heard the unmistakable sound of angry footsteps pounding across the pavement. Karen appeared again, marching straight toward the property line with her HOA binder clutched like a weapon. "You," she shouted, pointing at me as if announcing my crimes to the world. I knew something like this was happening. A ranch in my community. Absolutely not. I calmly stepped toward her while staying inside the fence line. "Karen, the construction is permitted. The land is mine. That doesn't matter," she shrieked. "The law forbids livestock, large structures, fences over 4 feet, commercial-sized gates, and—" "Karen," I interrupted gently, "the law has no jurisdiction here." She blinked, confused and furious. "What do you mean it has no jurisdiction? This is an HOA neighborhood." I handed her a neatly folded document from my pocket, the official zoning map and property description. This land was never part of the HOA. It was privately owned before the community was even built. The law can't enforce a single rule here. Karen snatched the paper and scanned it desperately, her eyes wide and darting. This can't be right." The foreman stepped forward, confirming with a polite nod. "Ma'am, everything here is legally approved. You can't interfere." Karen's face contorted between disbelief and fury. She opened her mouth to argue again, but no words came out. For the first time since I'd met her, she was speechless. As she stormed away, mumbling threats to talk to someone higher up, the workers exchanged amused glances. She finally understood. Her power ended at my fence line. The day the ranch was finally completed felt like the beginning of a new chapter. The morning sun lit up the newly built fences, the fresh wood of the barn, and the wide open fields that stretched far beyond what the eye could see. The smell of hay, fresh soil, and open air created a peaceful atmosphere that made every ounce of effort worth it. Neighbors slowly began gathering near the ranch gate, curious and excited about the transformation they had witnessed over the past few weeks. Some brought small gifts: fresh bread, homemade cookies, a bag of horse treats, while others just came to congratulate me on turning an empty lot into something full of life and purpose. Kids ran around, pointing excitedly at the horses grazing calmly in their new paddocks. As I welcomed everyone in, giving a small tour of the barn and showing the open lounging area near the fire pit, I felt a sense of pride I hadn't known before. This wasn't just a ranch. It was a place where people could breathe, relax, and feel free. And then, of course, there was Karen. She hovered at a distance across the street, arms folded tightly, her expression twisted with disbelief and simmering frustration. She refused to step even 1 foot onto the property, not because she wasn't curious, but because doing so would mean admitting defeat. Every laugh from the neighbors, every compliment about the ranch, and every neigh from the horses seemed to sting her more than the last. I waved politely in her direction. She pretended not to see me. As the sun set and neighbors gathered around the fire pit to celebrate, I looked over my peaceful land, my ranch, built on the same spot she once tried to chase me away from. Karen had yelled to push me out. But in the end, she only pushed me into building something even bigger and better. A new home, a new future, a new ranch.